Hello students, today we are going to start with chapter classification. Our topic of discussion is classification systems, John's Hutchinson system of plant classification and APG classification. This is paper 4th, Spermatophyta and Paleobotany. Now first we will discuss about the plant classifications. So we know about the plant classification. It is part of the plant taxonomy. Taxonomy is basically a science of classification of the plant. There are different types of classification systems. First one is artificial classification. Second is natural classification. And third, phylogenetic classification. These are three types of classifications. Whatever classification systems are there, these classification systems can be classified under these three types. The oldest classification systems are the artificial classification systems. The middle-aged classification systems was the natural classification systems, and after the advancement of science, or after the book which was published by Darwin, that is Origin of Species, whatever classification systems was proposed, that was the phylogenetic classification. So now we will start from the artificial classification system. So these are the earliest systems of classification. I have already told you that the oldest classification systems are the artificial type of classification systems. These classification systems was or are based on a few easily observable characters of plant, such as habit, means whether that tree is shrub or herb. So habit of the plant is easily observable character. If we classify this plant on the basis of one or very few easily observable character, then that is called as artificial system of classification, or the floral characters, particularly the number of stamens and the carpels. The sexual system of Linnaeus is good example of artificial classification, which used only one attribute, that is number of stamens, for grouping plants into 24 classes, as a result of which various unrelated taxa, which are not at all related but similar in one respect only, have been placed under the same class. So Linnaeus system of classification is a very good example of artificial classification system. The Linnaeus system of classification was the first classification system which was published full-fledged, means including all the known plants at that time, and that plants was classified into a 24 classes. So these classes was arranged according to the number of stamens, and again that classes was classified in a different groups according to the number of styles. So only stamens and carpels was considered for the classification of the plants, and these artificial systems are not currently in use because now we have so many sophisticated instruments and techniques for the gathering of information about the plant, and from that information we can classify these plants on the basis of their phylogenetic relationships. So artificial systems are not commonly in current use. Now, second type of classification systems are natural classification systems. These systems of classification are based on overall resemblances. What we see in artificial type of classification, we use only one or two easily observable characters for the classification of plant. But in the case of natural classification system, this classification system based upon overall resemblances of the plants, mostly in gross morphology, thus utilizing as many taxonomic characters as possible to group the taxa. So as many as taxonomic characters as possible we utilize in this classification system. For example, morphological characters. In morphological character, the type of leaf, size of leaf, venation of leaf, if there is stem, then outer texture of the stem, then whether there is nodes or internodes, again type of roots. So and again the reproductive information. So as possible as characters we can use in this classification system. In the natural system, all the important characters of plant are being considered, and the plants are classified according to their related affinities. So in this classification system, related affinities are considered. When we have more than one plant in classification or in identification, then we can or we have to consider the taxonomic characters, and again in addition to the taxonomic character we have to consider the affinities of that plants. Thus the closely related plants should naturally be grouped together, and this is called as natural classification. So because of that we can make a group of plant which are closely related to each other, because we are considering related affinities and more taxonomic characters for the grouping of the plant, and hence this is called as natural classification. Larger the number of characters shared by different taxa, the more closely related they are to each other. When we consider a large number of shared characters for the classification, it automatically brings the closely related taxa in a one group. This system reflects the situation as it is thought to exist under the natural condition. So it is more useful systems for the classification of the plant in natural conditions. We can bring together plants which are closely related to each other, and we can easily differentiate in the plant on the basis of its characteristics. So we can use more and more characters for the grouping of the plant, and hence it is called as natural classification. The best example of natural classification system is Bentham and Hooker's systems of classification. And these classification systems are the basis of modern classification, because when we consider the related affinities of the plant, then we can easily trace out the phylogeny of the plant, and this is the basis of phylogenetic systems of the classification. Third type of classification systems is the phylogenetic classification. In phylogenetic system, the plant are classified according to their evolutionary and genetic affinities. So this is the most important thing about the phylogenetic classification. In artificial type of classification systems and in natural type of plant classification systems, natural affinities of the plant are considered, but in the case of phylogenetic classification systems, evolutionary and genetic affinities are considered while classifying the plant. Evolutionary affinities means the evolution of the plant, and we can find out the probable ancestor of a particular group, or there is a prediction value of this phylogenetic type of classification system. We can predict the ancestors as well as we can predict the descendant of a plants, and this is important in phylogenetic classification. The classification systems proposed after the Darwin's theory are most phylogenetic type of classification systems. Darwin's theory is a landmark in the classification systems, because when Darwin proposed the theory of evolution, many scientists have changed their view about the evolution, and this Darwin's theory proved the basis of the most of the research after proposing the Darwin's theory. So whatever theory or classification systems was proposed after the Darwin's theory was mostly the phylogenetic systems of classification. They use many taxonomic characters as possible in addition to the phylogenetic interpretations. In these classification systems, taxonomists use information from all the available disciplines. For example, now we have a embryological data, we have a palynological data, again we have a molecular data of the plant, then we have a genetic information of the plant, and all that informations can be used for the classification of the plant. The systems of classification proposed by Engler in 1886, by Hutchinson in 1926, and by Tipo in 1942 are the phylogenetic systems of classification. So systems whatever proposed after the Darwin's theory was considered as a phylogenetic systems of classification, and all that systems, the systems which was proposed by Engler, then by Hutchinson, and then by Tipo, was considered as a phylogenetic system of classification. Today we have a most advanced system of classification, that is angiosperm phylogenetic group, that is APG, and this system is also a phylogenetic system of classification. After studying the types of classification systems, we are going to study the John Hutchinson's system of plant classification. John Hutchinson, a British botanist from the England associated with Royal Botanical Garden, Kew, and he proposed a phylogenetic system of classification. So, John Hutchinson was a British botanist. He was from England and he was working with Royal Botanical Garden, Kew. This is one of the most or the largest botanical garden in the world, that is in England and in Kew. So, John Hutchinson proposed the phylogenetic system of classification. Basic principles somewhat parallel to that of the Bessie, and he was mainly concerned with the classification of angiosperm. So, whatever classification system proposed by John Hutchinson, the principles or the basis of classification was same as that was considered by the Bessie, but the Hutchinson proposed the classification system mostly for the angiosperms. His classification system first appeared in two works: the families of flowering plant, which underwent several revisions, and the final treatment appeared in 1973, and in 1969 he published the evolution and phylogeny of the flowering plant. So this classification system was proposed in a different works, that is two-volume work, and the final system was published in 1973. His work or his other work include the genera of flowering plant. This is about the John Hutchinson's work. Now we will study the assumptions of Hutchinson's system of classification. The first assumption was evolution has generally been consistent, and it is both downward and upward and does not necessarily involve all organs at the same time. So this is the first assumption of Hutchinson's system of classification, that evolution has generally been consistent. Means Hutchinson said that or assumed that evolution is consistent and it is both downward and upward direction. The dicots are primitive to the monocots. While classifying the plants which were known to the Hutchinson considered that dicot are primitive to the monocots, and the shrubs and tree in any one genus or family are more primitive than the herbs. So herbs were considered as a most advanced plant. At the same time, in any one genus or family, the shrubs and trees are older in comparison to the climbers. And again, whatever plants was present in a single family or in a single group, the climbers was considered as a most advanced. Perennials are older than biennials and annuals. So the plants which lifespan of the plants are if more than the 2 years, then these plants were considered as a primitive, and the plants which is biennial and annual are considered as an advanced plant. The aquatic flowering plant are considered to have been derived from the terrestrial ancestors. Spiral arrangement of vegetative and floral leaves is primitive to cyclic arrangement. Simple leaves are more primitive than the compound leaves. We know that there are two different types of leaves, simple leaf and the compound leaf. And in this two type of leaves, simple leaves are more primitive than the compound leaves. Dioecious plants are more recent than monoecious plants, and bisexual flowers are primitive than unisexual flowers. Estivation type are evolved from contorted to imbricate to valvate. So the valvate type of estivation is considered as a most advanced type of estivation. Again, polymerous flowers means many parted is preceded Oligomerous flowers means few parted flowers, and apetalous flowers have been derived from the petalless flowers. Polypetally in turn is more primitive to the gamopetally. Means gamopetalous condition, apetalous condition is considered as a advanced type of conditions. Actinomorphy and hypogyny is primitive to zygomorphy and perigyny respectively. Epigyny is most advanced condition. Syncarpy is more advanced than apocarpy, while polycarpillary condition is advanced to the condition of few carpels. Flowers with many stamens are primitive to the flowers with few stamens. Plant with fused anther or filament are advanced to those in separate anthers. So as we go through the assumptions, we notice that the evolution is upward and the evolution is downward also. So in the case of flowers, if there is the many stamens, then that condition is primitive, and if there is a few stamens in the flowers, then these flowers or these plants can be considered advanced to the many stamens condition. Aggregate fruits are advanced to a single fruit. As a rule, the capsule precedes the berry or the drupe, and endospermic seeds with small embryo are older than non-endospermic seeds with the large embryo. So which are the non-endospermic seeds? The seeds which are produced by orchids are the non-endospermic seeds, and being non-endospermic seeds are advanced, orchids can be considered as a advanced. So these are the assumptions, and on the basis of these assumptions John Hutchinson proposed his theory, and that is the phylogenetic theory of classification. Merits and demerits of John Hutchinson's system of plant classification. The merits of this system are: the families and orders in this system are of small size and comprise only closely related taxa. So whatever families and orders was formed in this classification system are of the small size, and that families and orders are with a very closely related taxa, and this system is in conformity with modern view of phylogeny of angiosperm, as it considers the ranels and magnoliales are the starting point among the dicots. So after a research, now we come to know that the ranels and the magnoliales can be the starting point of dicots, and this particular type of view was proposed by John Hutchinson, and this was the merit of this system. In this system, monocots are discussed after the dicots. So monocot were considered advanced than the dicot, and this is the proven things today. Now, some demerits of these classification systems. Dicots have been divided into major groups, that is Lignosi and Herbaceae in this system. And this kind of classification is outdated, as the habit used to be a main basis of classification in the past era of Aristotle. So this type of view is a oldest type of view, that we considered only one character for the classification of the plants. So Lignosi and Herbaceae are two groups which was made by Hutchinson in the dicots, and this is the oldest type of view, that in that type of view we considered only few characters for the classification of the plant, and this is the demerit. Secondly, it also separate the families that have close affinities. Because of this type of consideration, so many plant families was there which was closely related with each other, and these families become separate in this classification system. This system is not much utility from the point of view of plant classification. Being this system was phylogenetic, we cannot use this system practically for the classification of the plant. This is a outline of John Hutchinson's system of classification. John Hutchinson divided the phylum in two different groups. Then subphylum is again divided into two different groups. Then division is in 5 groups. Order, there are 105 orders and 332 families. So flowering plants were divided into gymnosperms and angiosperm. Again, angiosperms is divided into dicotyledons and monocotyledons. Then dicotyledon is divided into archiclamidae and metaclamidae, and archiclamidae is considered without petals and free corollas, and in archiclamidae there is 59 orders and 213 families. Second division of dicotyledons is metaclamidae, that is the united petals, and this metaclamidae includes 17 orders and 51 families. Again, monocots was considered as advanced, and in that monocot, these monocots were divided into 3 divisions. First division is caliciferae. Caliciferae includes the plants or flowers which are having calyx and corolla absent. There are 12 orders and 28 families. Then coroliferae, these are the distinct corolla present, 14 orders and 34 families. And last division is glumiflorae. Glumiflorae means the plants which glume present and distinct perianth absent, and in this glumiflorae there is 3 order and 6 families. So John Hutchinson considered that the origin of angiosperm from the gymnosperm. From gymnosperm there is the bennettitales. From that bennettitales proangiosperms were formed, and from the proangiosperm angiosperms was formed. Last one is the APG system of classification. So APG means angiosperm phylogenetic group system. These are the most advanced type of classification system of the plant classification. So the APG system of plant classification is the first version of modern, mostly molecular based system of plant taxonomy published in 1998 by the Angiosperm phylogeny group. It was replaced by improved APG second in 2003, APG third in 2009, and APG fourth in 2016. So this is the most advanced type of angiosperm classification system, and this classification system is proposed by Angiosperm phylogeny group. The APG third system, which was proposed in 2009 of plant classification, is the third version of this modern and mostly molecular based system of plant taxonomy, that was published in 2009 by Angiosperm phylogeny group. That is 6 years after its predecessor, the Angiosperm phylogeny group second system was published, and the APG third system recognized all of the 59 orders and the 415 families.